Hello, boys and girls, fifth graders. Today I would like to talk to you about patterns, growing and changing patterns. And to do that, I thought I would use Minecraft again because I feel like this is, again, a language that you guys understand pretty well. So I'm going to kind of connect it to what we talked about the other day with volume. So right here, I've got a volume, and it's on the first level. So the base of this shape is 4 blocks because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's only one high. So on the very first step of this, it's actually a base. There are 4 blocks in it. So what would the pattern be if I added another layer to the top? Well, if I move over, I can show you what it would be. Well, here it is. I added another layer. So in this case, I actually added another 4 blocks. So now, go down here. Now on step 2, I have 8 blocks. So step 1, I had 4. Step 2, I had 8. And I can keep that pattern growing. Each time I add a layer, I'm going to be adding another 4 blocks. So this becomes a very predictable pattern. If you look at the next one, well, step 3, I have no idea why that says 5. Let's fix that. Step 3 is not 5 blocks. Step 3 is, in fact, 12 blocks because each time I go up, it will go up by 4. So the first step is 4, then 8, then 12. We should be able from this to predict how many it's going to take to go to the next one. So step 4. Well, what would step 4 be? Well, step 4 would be another layer, so I'm going to actually add 4 to this. Notice that each time I do this, I'm adding 4. Step 1 is 4, add 4 more, 8, add 4 more, 12. So in this case, I would be adding 4 more. Ooh, missed, huh? And up a little bit more. So in this case, it would be 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. So we should be able to predict now any number in this pattern. And that's what this last sign talks about. What about step X? And X in this case means anything, step of anything. So step, I don't know, 8 or step 12 or step 1,000. Well, we should be able to find a formula, find a rule that tells us how many blocks I'm going to have in this tower, no matter how many steps I've had. Well, notice that each time I'm doing this, I'm adding 4 to it. So really, if you think about it, because we know about volume, really each one of these is the height times 4. So in this case, it's 1 times 4. This case is 2 times 4. This case is 3 times 4. 4 times 4. If I went to the fifth one, it would be 5 times 4. And notice that the pattern, again, every single time is that times 4 part. So in fact, our steps, doesn't matter what step X it's going to be, the pattern will give me times 4. So in this case, my pattern is actually times 4. Now that's what it would be in let's do it this way so you can kind of tell. Oops, nope, I guess you can't go back up a line. That's what it'd be in words, but what I want to know is what would it be in math numbers? Well, in this case, I have that x, that any number. So what it would be 4, and I'm going to have to use a star for it, 4 times x, because in x, now you'll notice I can't just go 4xx, because then it would look really funny. So this is 4 times x, and actually in math notation, if you think way back to when we were doing order of operations, I told you that anytime you had something right next to it, like this, 4x, that's the same thing as 4 times x. So in this case, our pattern for whatever step we were to pick would be times 4, 4 times x, or 4x. And that's really the key right here. This 4x is what I want you to be paying attention to, because that's the mathematical way of describing this pattern. So let's see if it works. Let's pick a number for x and see if that fits the pattern of them. So let's pick, I don't know, let's go with 8. So in this case, I want to make a tower that is 8 tall. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I keep missing back there, don't I? Maybe I'll go this way. That'll be easier. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, if I'm following the pattern of my rule here, then I should know that the number of blocks that I just put in would be 4 times the step. And in this case, it was step 8. So step 8 would be 4 times 8. 4 times 8 is 32. So I should be able to count 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Did I do enough, Pat? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aha! 7. I did not do enough of them. That's why. Helps to count correctly. All right, let's try that again. So 4, 12, 16, 20, 24, 20. I've lost it again. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. Whew, boy. Brain's not working today, apparently. So, 32. So, in this case, it would be 32, which should be what we were predicting, because 4 times 8 is 32. So, as you're doing this, I want you to think about, okay, what is the pattern that I'm seeing? How does the pattern grow? In this case, it grows by times 4 each time. I'm going to add another layer of 4, and that allows us to predict any height. I could go up to 1,000, and I could tell you exactly how many diamond blocks it would be. It would be 4,000 blocks, because if I pick 1,000 as my step 1,000 for X, I would put it in here, 4 times 1,000. That would make 4,000, so I would be climbing up 4,000, or I would be climbing up 1,000 and putting in 4,000 blocks. And that is how we start to think about patterns. All right, let's try another pattern here. In this case, I've got a layer of 6 blocks, 3 by 2 for a total of 6. But notice in the back over here, I've got these 3 extra blocks. Well, the 6 that go in this, plus my 3 extra in this case, give me a total of 9 blocks. The 6 in my pattern plus those 3 back there. Now those 3 are not going to change. I'm always just going to have a pile of 3 behind my pattern. But the tower itself is going to change. I'm going to grow that just like I did with this example over here that you just saw. So in the second step, I'm going to add another layer of 6 blocks. 6 blocks and 6 blocks. That makes 12. But notice, if I move back here, aha, those 3 are still there. So I still have to account for those 3. So on the second step, I've got 6, 12, plus the 3 behind gives me a total of 15. 9 on the first one, 15 on the second one. Let's go to the third step. The third step, I'm going to add one more layer of 6. So my pattern's going to grow by 6. 6, 12, 18. Now let's check and see. What do you know? Whoops, it's not there. That's because I must have knocked one off there. There's my 3. Plus what I had in the 18, that gives me a total of 21. All right, let's look at the fourth step. The fourth step, I should be able to predict exactly how many there are because I can follow the same pattern. I know that I'm going to lay down a base of 6. I'm going to make it 4 tall because this is the fourth step. So that's going to be 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24, plus those 3 more in the back. So it's going to be a total of 27 diamond blocks, if I don't mess up like I just did and add an extra one, which I will now take away. Okay, great. So in this case, let's add it in here. Let's change this. Now that we know exactly how many there are, step 4 is going to be, where's my equal sign? Equal to 27 blocks. Good. Great. Notice the pattern. Each time I grew it by 6, but kept those 3 over in the background. Those didn't change any. That plus 3 just stuck there. So I had 6 plus 3. Then I had 12 plus, let's get up so you can see it. 12 plus 3. 18 plus 3. 21 plus 3. So each time, not 21, sorry, 24 plus 3. Each time, my pattern actually grew by 6. Let's check that. 9 and 15, how far apart are they? 6, because there's the extra layer. 21 and 15, how far apart are they? 6, because there's, again, the extra layer. 27 and 21, how far apart are they? 6, because there's the extra layer. So each time my pattern's going to grow by 6. So what happens for that mystical step x? And again, of course, x stands for any step that I choose. The first step, the 12th step, the 100th step, the billionth step, whatever step it is that I choose, how do I figure out exactly how many are in there? Well, I'm always going to still have that plus 3, and I'm always still going to have a base of 6. But the thing that's going to change is how tall my tower is. If it's going to be 15, then I'm going to build one that's 15. I'm going to put 15 layers on there. If it's going to be 1,000, then I'm going to put 1,000 layers on there. But each time I do, I'm going to add another 6. So really what I'm doing is multiplying. I'm going up by 6 times. Each time I go up by a factor of 6, or a multiple of 6. So my pattern in this case is actually going to be in words. Let's say it in words first. My pattern is what? It's times 6, but then there's always that 3 in the after, isn't it? I'm multiplying by 6, but then I'm adding that little pile behind. So in this case, it's going to be plus, English, not mathematics, and then add 3. Okay, so it's times 6, add 3. Times 6, add 3. Well, there's got to be a mathematical way to say that. Well, what if I said it was... I forgot how I said it last time. I remember now. 6 times x, because that's the times 6 part. And then I'm going to add 3 more. Well, how do I say that in math? Add 3. Remember again, there's a better way to write this, because this looks like 6xx. You're reaching now the point where we don't use the x for times anymore. What we use is just pushing those two numbers together. So this is really 6x plus 3. And what this really means is 6 times 3, add 3. 6x is 6 times x plus 3. So again, I could pick any x that I want. If I picked 100, then it would be 6 times 100. That'd be 600 plus 3 more. So 603. I would know that I would need exactly 603 blocks to build this pattern. Each time, notice that the pattern is growing by that base. And that's really important, because this is really a way of thinking about all patterns. Think about it in this terms. What is the base? What is that extra number that gets added in the back? All right, another situation here. I've got a base right here of 2 wide and 4 long, so it's a base of 8. So I'm looking at 8 diamond blocks here. But unlike last time where I had them sitting above ground, I have this extra pile. Now I've got an extra hole. And in order to make it work, I'd actually have to take these blocks and fill in the hole before I can count how many I've got left. So I'd actually have to take away, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. So in order to make this work, I'd actually have to take these 5 away and put them in here and fill it up. And what would leave me with would only be 3 left over, because I had to take 5 of my original base to fill in this hole to make it level. So my base of 8, taking away these 5, is actually only 3 blocks that are left over. So in this case, my pattern fills in with only 3. I mean, I had the 8, and then I took away the 5 to fill in the hole, and I'm left with 3. Now that hole is going to stay there. That hole of 5 is going to stay for each step of my pattern. So each time, I'm going to need to take away 5 from whatever I've got. So let's look though. So first step is 8, base of 8. Second step would be another base of 8. So that's a total of 16 minus the 5 that are missing in the back there. So the 16 taking away 5 is really only 11. Okay, so step 3, I can already start to predict it's going to be 3 tall. 3 times 8, That's 24. My whole is still back here, still worth 5. Taking away 5 from my 24 leaves me with 19. Now, in this case, I'm not actually going to do the fourth step because we can actually predict what the fourth step would be. I would add another 8, which would be 32, take away 5. So I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is the pattern. What happens when I go to any step, that X step? So again, X could be 50, could be 100, could be 1. We don't know, but I want to make a rule that can predict what that step is going to, what the number is going to be for whatever step I happen to pick. So again, notice the pattern. Each time it's going up by 8, but that whole is always still there. So whatever I pick is going to have that whole represented in it. So let's look at it. Let's look at it in words. So the pattern is really going to be, what is it? It is times 8, but then there's that hole there, so I'm actually going to subtract 5. Oh, I can't get it with subtract 5. Let's try subtract 5. You guys can't even put that in there. How about instead of subtract, we say minus? There we go. So times 8 minus 5. That's what the pattern is. So how do we write that in our notation that we've been using all along? Well, we know that 8 is the multiplier, and then we use that X to say that's the step. So it's 8 times whatever step you have to pick, and the minus 5 is really just minus 5. So if I picked 10 for my X, then it would be 8 times 10 is 80, take away 5, 75. So I can know that would take 75 blocks of diamond to make one that was 10 tall. So I can just keep picking numbers for X and plugging them into my pattern, my formula for the pattern, and that will tell me what every single possible combination is, or what every single possible tower is going to be. It's always going to be 8 times however tall you're going to make it, and there's always that hole stuck in the back that's sucking up 5 of whatever it is I'm putting up here. And that is how we start to think about patterns and finding a rule or a formula for the pattern. So as you go, I want you to think about visualizing it in this way. Good luck.